Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. So, joining me today is Gracia. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm
So
good.
excited to be here.
Yeah, did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, Gracia, that's my name.
Okay, awesome. So, where in the States are you, Gracia?
Yeah, I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, on the
Oh,
East
nice.
Coast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys have lots of beaches there? Like, are you close?
Yes, so Boston, yes, Boston's on the coast actually. So there are some beaches, but most of us don't go to those. We pretty go either to the north or south because there are way better beaches there.
Oh,
But
wow.
there's a huge
Awesome.
coastline. Yeah, so I'm a Boston native and I love to roller skate, but by trade I'm a social worker. So that's what my degree is in, and I currently practice. But I'm a new entrepreneur and I'm a confidence coach. So I recently opened up my business
Mhm.
to take people on a journey of self-discovery to increase their confidence to go after the life that they want. So
Mhm.
the fun and exciting new chapter that I'm entering in my life.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I wanted to become a social worker. That's why I'm so passionate about helping other people.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a very interesting, very rewarding, very stressful career. I've been a mental health professional for almost 10 years now. But I just got my master's in social work recently, which opened up a whole new world on this side. So yeah, it is definitely really rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you tell us more about you? Was this something you always wanted to do?
So no, interestingly enough, I always say that I kind of fell into this career. So when I graduated from undergrad, I didn't really know where I wanted to be. I had a bachelor's in psychology, so I found a job working with adults who have severe and persistent mental illness in a group home.
Mhm.
And that was once I got in that career, started really talking to my supervisor and really learning about the mental health system here in Boston. Also learning about what does it mean to have mental illness and outside of the books and for the folks I was working with. And that kind of ignited me in my career. I've always wanted to help people, always, even from a little girl. But I did not imagine being a social worker now.
Oh,
So
wow, that's
that kind of
awesome.
my journey kind of went, and I do not regret it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing because I have mental health issues. I don't look like it. I don't sound like it. That's the beauty and the pain of mental health diagnosis because they're invisible. We can't always see them.
Of course. And even if you do not have a formal diagnosis, we can all benefit from some type of support, right? Because I did in therapy with all kinds of individuals. And so we all need that kind of check-in here and there.
Yeah, you're right. Um, So was there ever a time that, in life you struggled to make decisions and did you feel heard in your decisions and choices?
Yes, I think that was my whole life story, basically. Right? Like, I call it I'm the youngest of a lot of children. And so, being the youngest, you're never heard. So that was always my life. But I think my journey through becoming a social worker was a difficult decision because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to. And I kind of had to figure all of that out my own. And why I became a social worker um, was very different than what I thought from a kid. And so even my decision to get to social work school took a few years because wanted to go a different route. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this full time. While working full time, I have to support myself. Like how I'm going to afford my apartment, take, provide food on the table while going to school, and how I'm going to be able to afford my car and all those different things. And so that decision really struggled. And even getting into social work school, that was a breeze, filling out the paperwork. But when I went to go meet with one of the women who helped me kind of figure out this journey and how to do it while full-time work, like I was told off the bat, like, this is not something you can do full-time. And I was like, what? That's surprising because in my personal statement to apply, I put that in there.
Mm-hmm.
as a challenge I would definitely face, challenging, but I didn't think it was impossible.
Yeah.
And so, she didn't hear me, what I wanted, what I was looking for. And even that meeting was very stressful because it's like, can we meet over the phone? She's like, no, I'm gonna need you to meet in person. I said, why do we have to meet in person? Like, what more are we looking to accomplish? Because my school wasn't close to my home.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so she just wasn't hearing what I needed.
Yeah.
In the end, it all worked out, but my whole career through social work school is very, very, very bumpy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very trying when people don't hear us. But I'm proud of you for persisting and, keep going through what you had to go through to become the person that you are today.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I look back and I didn't realize at the time that this journey was setting me up to be who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
2018 is when I started, and that was a real impactful year for me because I remember also too, at the end of that year, we went into the pandemic and I was still in school during that period. So there was a lot of different challenges and different things that set me up to feel more confident to be like, no, this is what I need. This is what I want. And to be more vocal that way
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you asked me back then, would I be here meeting with you today? Absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would you recommend your career to someone else and why?
Yeah, so I would recommend it to those who have the passion for helping individuals, who really want to help folks get back to their level of functioning, social functioning, we call it. But just basically meaning that they can navigate the day-to-day life independently. Because as we all know, social work is not the career to automatically make all this money. And the way to keep motivated is by your passion and what drives you internally. So if people have that, they really want to help, they really want to make an impact and have a rewarding career. That's hard, of course.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, you're right. If you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would you say to her?
I would tell her that the world is going to change and
Mm.
go with it and
Ooh.
figure out how to take your personality, take everything about you that makes you you, and take the world
Mhm,
changing and make it work because you will do it. That's what I
mm,
would tell her.
mhm. I love that. I love that. I even asked myself that question because I find that the answers throughout the years are never the same.
Hmm.
Mhm,
Yeah, because each year we learn something new, we grow, we find a new challenge, or we have a major setback. Because I've seen that
mhm,
also happen with a lot of folks. Even myself, I have minor ones, but some people have huge setbacks that can really change your whole worldview.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, you're right. What is one of your biggest fears in life?
Um, it used to be failure,
Mm,
used to be one of my biggest fears, but now I'm not so scared of it anymore.
mm.
Um, Honestly, I don't know anymore. I would
Yeah.
have told you failing, but now I've built my foundation to feel confident in who I am and my work and my value. So
Mhm,
with that, I know failure is gonna happen. Um, so yeah, I guess something that really scares me though is is not having the resources that I have to feel comfortable in life.
mhm,
So if something were to majorly happen to where I couldn't afford my house or I couldn't afford my car
mhm,
at the same time, that would be a huge fear.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a very common one. I don't know about where you are, but everything is expensive here. Everything went up, the cost of living. It's between being homeless or feeding ourselves. It's brutal, and it's a fear that most of us definitely do have. Um, yeah, so you do work with people with severe mental health issues. What are some common stigmas that you've heard from people who doesn't have mental health issues?
That one of the common is a fear of them, right? We see in the news a lot how people who are who are committing serious crimes
Mm-hmm.
have a mental illness. And so that creates a fear that they're going to harm you. And when we actually look at the numbers, it's a small subset of
Mm-hmm.
individuals who have mental illness who actually commit these crimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, a lot of folks are that I work with are poor, so they don't have a lot of income. They're on government assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and so with that brings a whole lot of other stigmas as well of what it means to be low income on top
Mm-hmm.
of having mental illness. I don't think that people take them as serious all the time, especially when they're hearing things and seeing things that other people don't, and when their speech is not always in a clear and coherent manner. That
Mm-hmm.
definitely can be like, well, I know better than you.
Yeah.
I know what's best for you in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
You're
those are
right.
the common ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been on both sides where I was very, very sick, and I was taken care of, but there were always those doubts and fears in the hospital, uh, you know, and obviously no one chooses to be sick, but you're
Mm-hmm.
right. The media does not help us at all. Doesn't help me as someone who have many diagnoses. Um, there was a time where I was very, very ashamed to tell people what I'm diagnosed with
Mm.
because of what society deemed people like myself or the diagnosis to be. Was it's like we're a weapon, we're bad, we're dangerous, when really I think, in my opinion, or most people, or they're scared because this is something new. Their whole world just collapsed and life will never be the same. um, what would you say to, to governments and agencies that are providing resources to people like that?
Yeah, I would definitely say we need to talk to the folks that we're serving more. A lot of times these policies come out of play from what the top has decided and what's not always actually beneficial for the people working in the system and who benefit from the system. So definitely talk to us. Talk to the people who are at the ground level, who are doing the frontline work, who are working with the frontline workers. Talk to your other stakeholders on what it's like to receive services, what it's like to work in the system, what's actually going on. Because once you are in a certain place, your worldview changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can only see from that point of view versus somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Would you say that you love your future more or your past more?
Oh, definitely in the future more. I mean, with my new business, Warm&Rooted, that I opened, I am working towards, creating the perfect job for me. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't found it from somebody else's company. So I'm like, create it for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so future me is like, yeah, you can do that. You got it. Like, all right, gonna fail a couple times. You'll get back up. Past me wouldn't have said that. Past
Mm-hmm.
me would have been like, no, you can't do this. You can't open a business. You don't have the money. You're
Yeah.
not good enough. You don't have anything to value. Past me was very negative, and
Mm-hmm.
future me is more positive. So
Yeah. Yeah.
love and positivity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're not alone. Yeah, so many of us, we do know how to tear ourselves down. Uh,
Oh,
it's a mindset problem or boundaries. What would you say?
sorry, repeat that question.
Would you say it's a mindset issue that we have, when it comes to how we view life?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think it does have a lot to do with your mindset, but because we are dynamic individuals and we have different influences, it's like we're a combination of what's around us.
Yeah.
So I also think our environment plays a big piece. And that's what I hope to show my clients, like, yeah, you can change your mindset, but you also need to set up your environment, your support system. And so part of my coaching program, we identify, like, let's talk about your relationships to people, places, and things. And how does those relationships help your new mindset? Do
Mm-hmm.
they align with it? Do they
Yeah.
align with your values? Do they fit into your boundaries? Do you respect those?
Mm-hmm.
Because if your relationship and the people around you and the businesses around you do not align, it's never going to work out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell me more about your coaching program and just the steps and how you help your clients.
Yeah, so it starts with discovering who we are. Through my journey and also working in my full-time job, I've seen that a lot of folks my age especially
Mm-hmm.
don't really know who they are. And so when you try to help them according to what works best for them, it becomes hard. And so we got to go back a little bit and build that foundation of you, right? So the coaching program starts with who you are. What do you like? What do you don't like? What are your hobbies? So that you can answer that question like that. You asked me earlier, tell me a little bit about you. And I was
Yeah,
like, all right, here we go. That builds confidence, right?
yeah.
Setting up your boundaries, that helps in your communication. So telling people how you want to be treated and also holding your boundaries, having the power over your life to do that. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to, now we're going to get closer to clarifying your goals. So we got to understand your mindset, keep going on this journey that you talked about earlier, changing changing environment. Now we have all the pieces inside of you. Now we can go and clarify your goals,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you wanted to be an entrepreneur, but maybe the way you're going at it didn't align with your personal values and how you set up your life.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to
Oh,
go in a
yeah.
different way, right?
That's pretty powerful stuff you just said.
Of
Right?
course.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
believe we all have what we need inside of us. We just either have to strengthen it and maybe learn a few new skills,
Mm-hmm.
but not much, right? And so how do we tap into that power that we already have in us to bring it
Mm-hmm.
outwardly? Because that's what confidence is. It's
Yes.
about you showing other people what's inside. And how do you feel about that?
Mm-hmm. I love that. What does boundaries mean to you? How do you set up boundaries in your life, to go through, especially at work or other areas?
Of course. I mean, that's a really good question. And I recently helped some of my coaching clients with this, and I gave her a worksheet, and it basically outlines boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So boundaries, they can come physical, they can be sexual, financial. There's a lot of different ones. So identifying those. And then we move towards using who you are, your value system to kind of identify what does those boundaries look like. So if you are a person that values time, your boundary is you need to be on, I want people around me who are on time to our meetings, who holds our meeting time. If they're going to be late by a certain amount of time, rescheduling,
Mm-hmm.
and really, understanding that this is who you are, what you want. If we talk about sexual boundaries, we're talking about people upholding, what your intimacy looks like with them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
not moving, not trying to go around that. Because you can see that can be easy to happen, and really saying, no, you're not going around that.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have boundaries that are more rigid. So it's absolute no, there's never going to be a yes.
Yeah.
There's more porous, which could mean that, okay, I can compromise a little bit here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they can be on a range, and really I can clear on that. So that way people know, if you're going to ask me for money, the answer is going to be this or that. And I have to respect that because she's not going to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I've interviewed so many people, and boundaries has been a very common topic that is always brought up in many different aspects, just like you described. Um, I think we need to keep talking about boundaries because people still need to hear it because they think they can sway people just to walk over them and to get what they want. Sexual boundaries, that's a massive topic. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Give me your opinion and thoughts on sexual boundaries at work. You know, people who's
Mhm.
experiencing that with coworkers or bosses, and they just kind of let it slide because they don't want to lose their job. When truly that is their boundaries being violated.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a very, like you said, large and hard topic. I think especially when we talk about difference in genders, um, because we fall into a certain category depending on what we identify as. And it's always, and also too, our roles within the workforce, right? Because now you're talking about power play. Usually sexual boundaries are around power. And so especially when they're in the workplace, they
Mhm,
can be blurred depending on that what position you are. So if it's your supervisor, saying inappropriate things to you, do you want to risk your job by denying them? Also, what happens after that, right?
mhm,
There's huge implications if we accuse people of doing things and the system is not always set up to protect the victims
mhm,
or the
mhm,
people I should say affected.
mhm,
And so that's another layer in itself. And so I think, and it's hard because we always want to protect folks and side with folks when they say these things happen. But really looking at, all right, this happened. Are you prepared and ready to deal with what happens next?
mhm,
Who can support you? If you set up a boundary at work, you know, are you
mhm,
ready for what happens next? Because if you tell your supervisor, this is not what works out well for me, and he doesn't deal with rejection well,
mhm,
that could be
mhm.
a hard battle. So I wish we lived in a world where boundaries were more respected, of course,
Yeah.
especially sexual boundaries. And it wasn't this huge topic,
Mhm,
but we don't. And we have to be
mhm.
prepared for every possible outcome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think the more our boundaries are broken, the more resilient we become and the stronger they get. For me, my boundaries have been broken in every aspect
Oh,
imaginable.
wow.
But does that turn me into a bear? I
Mm,
will fight. I will not put up with it anymore because I've experienced what it's like to be broken. And I hope women or anybody can find the will and the strength to put their feet down to say no. Because yes is an answer, no is an answer, and it should be respected everywhere.
yes. Absolutely. And so I'm grateful for my state where we have, you know, in my social work program, domestic violence was you had to take a training, you had to pass it so that you had a certain certification. And then really sexual harassment, sexual violence, all of
Mhm,
those different topics are covered throughout our employment. There are, it's regulated that you have to go through these things and you have to learn about it and you have to talk about it. And I'm really grateful that the people around me really value not only physical but psychological safety because
mhm,
there's a difference.
mhm,
And that we can, even though we don't agree and things happen where our boundaries are crossed, we can have those conversations and we can set that up. Because like you said, the more it happens, the more resilient you become.
yeah.
And so that way you can be like, nope, I'm not moving. I'm not moving from this. Nope. The answer is no.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Let's say I'm one of your clients. You don't know anything about me. How would you know that I'm struggling with boundaries or speaking up for myself? Would you detect that based on what I tell you, my story, or based on my past or emotions?
A combination of both, and also I'm gonna throw another one in there. My intuition's gonna tell me too. I don't know how to really describe it, but like I get this gut feeling a lot of times that you're struggling with boundaries. So when I initially meet with folks, I offer for my business a
Mhm,
free consultation and we kind of talk about what's holding you back, what you're struggling with, kind of getting to know you. And so that way, I'll hear some language that's around you
mhm,
feel like you have to agree to what other people say despite your personal feelings around it. You'll see some people pleasing in there. You'll see a lot of frustrations about other people's actions
mhm, Hmm.
Or if they have, then I told people no, but they don't listen to my no. It's like you said, we talked about earlier, feeling heard.
Sorry,
I
my
was,
it's unstable.
no worries. I see your little kitties in the background.
Oh yeah, they're just buzzing around. Okay, we can continue. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Um, yeah, so the last thing I said was you'll either hear communication of not telling people what they want or not being heard with what they want. So those are
Hmm.
the key pieces I would look for.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Who do you work with mostly? Women, men, young adults, and are they mostly in the States or around the world?
So I mostly work with women who are my peers, so in their 30s, and they are in the States, so local to me.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, that's a good category because
Mm-hmm.
by mid 30s, most of us are experiencing midlife crisis. I've had many of them.
Oh, I've had two already. Okay. I've had a quarter life crisis and a midlife crisis. And the midlife started because I didn't know I was in midlife. And then when I realized it, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah. I have them every year. It's ridiculous. They just keep coming.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here like it's so ridiculous because I'm like, what do I have to be afraid of, right? But
Yeah,
you know, it's not
yeah.
always rational. It's just this eternal feeling of doom that
Mhm.
I'm like, all right, it's here. What do I do with it? And I sit there and yell
Yeah,
and scream for a little bit and move on. So
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
really hope to like catch people from doing that as much as possible.
Hmm.
Because the world is terrible. It's gonna, I mean, as we talked about earlier, it's going up in flames and it's gonna happen. And so we have to kind of balance that and balance life. And
Hmm.
so, my goal is to catch people and make life a little bit easier
Yeah, yeah,
for them.
yeah, yeah. What is one thing that you will never change? Could be something about you or something you believe or a type of work that you're doing.
I will never change. I would never, I would never continue to apologize for who I am. I think
Oh,
subconsciously
yeah.
I do that a lot.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
Hmm.
But I'm not apologetic for being me. I'm not apologetic for being emotional, for having feelings, expressing those, for doing being everything that makes me me, right? And I used to a lot to make other people feel comfortable and it never worked out. Yeah, I'm not apologizing for being me. I don't we all don't have that personality that fits into every category. But it
Hmm.
doesn't make us any worse of a person. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you're different.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, if you
Yeah.
don't like it, I'm gonna find somebody else who will.
Yeah, I love that. Before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts? Anything we haven't touched on that you would like to share?
Yeah. I mean, one, thank you for this opportunity. And
Mhm.
two, you just wanted to say that this conversation, it's a continual one, right? And we
Yeah.
should always have these conversations because meeting with different people, it brings us to a different awareness and it
Mhm.
helps me as a professional to be more well-rounded and to be able to really practice that empathy that's so important to the work that I do.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I want to thank you, as a someone who suffer with mental health issues for what you're doing, because it is very beautiful and powerful work, even though some people may make it look like it's a burden to care for those who need it the most. So thank you for what you do. And I can tell that you do it with such excellent and with lots of love and empathy. So thank you.
Oh, that just made my day.
Yeah. Where can my listeners find you if they'd like to work with you?
Of course. So Warm&Rooted is my company name. And so everywhere on social media, my website, email, it's the word warm, the letter N, the word rooted.
Mhm.
And if you type that in any social media, I'm there. If you put .com after that, that's my website. At Gmail is my email. That's where they
Mhm.
can find me.
Awesome. Well, Gracia, thank you so much for your time today. It was an honor to get to know you and to have this amazing conversation.
Same to you. Thank you. I'm so grateful.
You're welcome.